Hello, everyone, and welcome this week to our Cultivate Corner. And this is where we get to have a great conversation with the president of Cultivate, my good friend, Jerry Curtin. Jerry, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. You've been a very busy man. We've been having some conversations about what's been going on with Cultivate. And I'm impressed. I'm inspired. I love what you're talking about. You and Charlie Dubois have recently spent some time with some other of your partners and colleagues at NCLC talking about the future of, I'll say, the chiropractic practice. I want to say, let's get right into it. Tell us about the event and what you guys were talking about.
Yeah, we always love NCLC. It's an opportunity to get to the epicenter, on Capitol Hill and just have a lot of great interactions, not only with people from the chiropractic profession, but people who lobby on behalf of the profession. And when you're around those kind of folks, that's where visions get built. That's where strategies get built. So I always like to go to make sure that we're plugged in and appropriate as to what's on the forefront of chiropractic. But at the same time, it's just always a great collection of experts of a lot of different walks of life that just really care about this profession. So it was a great experience for us. We had an opportunity to speak at one point, and I think the response is pretty good.
Share with us, for those that may not know, what exactly is NCLC?
The National Chiropractic Leadership Convention typically will pull a variety of different folks from the profession into one common place. You see, probably more so at this convention than others, a big contingency of students that are out there in the profession looking to get close to the nucleus, if you will. There's always a nice group of chiropractors out there that are out there, attending seminars like they do every weekend, getting their CEUs. But they think that, that NCLC tends to attract maybe a different kind of tone at times in terms of clairvoyance outside of the chiropractic profession. Mm-hmm. And then I think, you have your lobbyists and your politicians that are there to really try to advance the practice. So they're out there trying to connect with some of our most experienced docs in the profession and saying, what are you seeing? And that can span, as you know, all over the board, from insurance to legislation to what we're seeing locally. But all of that wraps into a very rich, very highly educated, detailed sort of perspective of where at least that point of the world believes chiropractic is going over the next 5 years.
Right on. Now, you got a chance to present. We talked about, was your official topic the practice of the future, or share with us what you guys presented?
Yeah, it was a 2-hour session. We talked about practice of the future. I was lucky enough to be partnered on the stage with Dr. David Fletcher from CLA and Rick Weiss, my buddy from NutriScreen, who's probably one of the smartest guys in nutrition that I know. Right. We started out just laying a little bit of the groundwork that I think everybody is comfortable with, Jason, and that was, what's the landscape of chiropractic right now? We out here in the profession, most of us are familiar with the Palmer study that was done recently about the practice. So we know about 13% of Americans are going to the chiropractor. About 52, 54% of all people who go to the chiropractor feel like they're one of the most trusted healthcare practitioners that they see. Maybe on the downside a little bit, we see that about 60, 65% of all chiropractors are still self-employed. And we see about a 56, 57% private practice failure rate in the first 4 years. So, the message is not necessarily that we need to make drastic changes, but obviously there is something that we can do as a profession that helps people from the point at which they graduate to those first 5 to 7 years of critical learning and critical business establishment, and then set them on the path for a practice that's healthy. We just brought to the table, Jason, with that sort of landscape, that there are new opportunities on the table. I mean, we know that this profession is going to grow about 28% by 2020. Well, how the heck are we going to do all of that? And where are all the places we can play? And when we start talking about growing by 28%, the traditional chiropractor typically is saying, well, I'm in that town of 12,000 people and there's already 10 chiropractors. What do you mean there's going to be 28 more percent? How am I going to survive?
Right.
So we would just like to say, look, this is a challenge that everybody's going to have to face, moving forward into the next decade or two. And we just like to present maybe a different view and a different outlook, much about what we talked about the last time. So, after we get through the lay of the land, we set the paradigm that in chiropractic, what everybody is paying attention to are outcomes and results. We all know that chiropractors are fantastic. We all know that they do wonderful things one-on-one with so many people. But the challenge of the practice is, how do we speak to our effectiveness in aggregate? And there are not too many places in which we can do that. So we share in that discussion that when we talk about reducing healthcare costs by 55% or spousal claims by 18%, and we say it's all on the foundation of chiropractic, now people are wondering, right, what is so unique about this where you're getting these kind of results? So then we just move into, that the outcomes and the certainty matter. If everybody trusts us, or at least half of the U.S. population trusts us, then why is only 13% of the population seeing us, right? I hope you would agree. Therein lies our golden opportunity.
Yeah.
So we like to just unwrap our view of chiropractic to say we recognize there's a lot of different ways in which to practice, and there's a lot of specialties and unique techniques. But the ability to measure whatever test or whatever procedure you have along the way and get that longitudinal look for your patient and then extrapolate that to the patient base, we just challenge people as to what diagnostic tools are you using, what measurements are you taking, and is that enough? Are you measuring the right things, and does it matter? And if you are measuring things and you are seeing good results, how does that improve your business? How are you sharing that? How are you getting smarter? Well, the good news is, as you know, there are hundreds and thousands of chiropractors out there doing this fantastically, but we typically don't share very well. So we spend a lot of time talking about diagnostic tools, repeatable testing procedures, and just the idea of making sure that when you talk about chiropractic, you also have the ability to talk about its success in the extended spaces. And we love and cultivate those extended spaces. We love the diversification of a patient offering to include nutrition. We love the fitness angle. We love the preventative care of that chiropractor sitting out there right in front of the primary care physician. Diversifying the patient offering, Jason, I believe, is one of these next frontiers. We have been for quite a while now in the chiropractic community talking about patients in terms of care plans. An acute plan is so many visits, a chronic plan is so many visits. And I would still agree that in that acute space, care plans are important. But I would challenge the chiropractic profession that if you were really getting out there and doing acupuncture or nutrition or fitness, you can change that relationship into a care plan, into a lifelong patient. So we talk about the lifelong patient theory, and that it can be achieved if you're willing to expand your offering to your patients a little bit outside of the traditional chiropractic space. So we love the idea that if you are a great chiropractor, you have a little bit of a holistic twinge to the way that you do your work, there are ways in which you can actually train and be educated and put new systems and new tools in place. Even what we do here at Amplify. This digital world is crazy, right?
Amazing.
The old days of going and getting your lunch and learns at the YMCA, are kind of gone by the wayside. Everybody wants the personal experience. So being able to get to people today, like we are doing, is, I think, a continual movement where chiropractors have to reevaluate the relationship that they have with their patients and turn to much more of a digital experience where maybe in the past they relied on a lot of face-to-face commitments and contacts. So we talk about the way that world is changing. We also like to just tout that we are such strong supporters of chiropractic that it's our mission to make sure that we tell people that chiropractors are so much more than your subluxation experts. I put chiropractors in businesses every day, and I can tell you that about 50% of what they do is actually manipulation. They're spending time talking about the jobs, they're talking about safety, they're talking about ergonomics, they're talking about nutrition, they're talking about work-life balance, and they're talking about the spouses and the dependents at home. For chiropractors who are looking to build that relationship and have it be stronger, we need to challenge ourselves with sort of this historical patient-doctor relationship and see, given our practice, given our own God-given talents, where can we make new inroads? And so we kind of wrap all of that up. My friend David talks about the certainty of chiropractic. If you're not using some diagnostic, you should be using some diagnostic so that you can create the confidence with your patients, that you're moving them down the right path. We are obviously very strong believers in nutrition. We think when you understand what's happening to you in a chiropractic adjustment, and you can then make the linkage to the organs and the systems that surround that spine, there's no reason in the world that nutrition shouldn't be the next conversation. We go from neurology to structure to function. Why not take it to the next step of biology? Yeah. And so that's what we bring to the table, that say this holistic, way in which we do things actually provide, the right foundation. So chiropractors that are out there in the audience, typically have a lot of questions for us. And, we kind of leave them with this sort of nugget, Jason, and that is the people that we have in our community right now are really some of the best tenured, savvied experts in chiropractic that we've run across. We like to create that community within a community so that those people can share specifically practice management things that work. And this isn't going to a seminar and talking about what you heard. It's like real, what works, what can I do tomorrow? We also teach people how to prepare their practice. Some people think the on-site opportunity is something very intriguing, but I think from your experience and my experience, we both know that nothing on site is possible without a healthy private practice running in the background. So as you would imagine, people are interested in terms of what kind of tools and resources are there to help them run practice. But when we dig into that relationship, our mission is to make that chiropractic office and that community very powerful and very influential. Yes, our model goes on site, but we look forward to chiropractors collaborating together in a community, not competing against each other in a community, and say, let's go tackle this workforce that's now paying attention to us and seeing that we can actually deliver results. I've got a great story in Illinois where I've got 3 doctors that used to compete against each other 6 months ago, now all collaborating, all attacking the employment market. And inside of 2 months, they're in 2 companies. Wow. And I think they'll take the town by storm. And again, this is not selling people on cracking necks and cracking backs, is it? It's convincing people based on results and outcomes that a chiropractor can provide. And what we're learning out there, Jason, is when we speak like this and we can address the same sort of analytics that someone would use for an MD or a nurse, we dispel all myths around the ability of a chiropractor to deliver results. So we teach people how to have these conversations. We teach them how to prepare their practice appropriately. And then we take the next step and say, okay, once your practice is ready and you're ready to attack the community, you're typically not a commercial person and people need help and support. So, we come in there at the end and say, okay, let's get to know your community and let's help you knock down these doors and have these conversations.
I love, one of the things I love so much about what you do, what you're doing, why, I really appreciate what this relationship is all about, is that you really are opening doors for chiropractors, for the profession, into places that the individual chiropractor tends not to have the knowledge, the resources, and even perspective to really know how to open these doors. When you talk about, measuring and aggregate measuring and so on, I can, as a chiropractor myself, I can hear, look, I know I can make an adjustment. I know somebody gets better. I don't need that stuff to run my business. And they may be right for themselves. And so I just want, for those watching or listening, that the context for all of this is that this isn't about what you need as a doctor. This is what employers, C-level executives, decision makers need to make the right decision to bring, I'll say a chiropractor, to bring Cultivate, to bring this lifestyle to their employees in a way that's congruent with the chiropractic message and valuable to the employers. And so that's why, you're doing the work, you're making the investment, and you're really sort of blazing the trail of conversations that most chiropractors, I'm not sure, even think about. They wish about, but they don't really think about, how would I approach a C-level executive, a CEO, a CFO, somebody who's focused on the bottom line, who's clearly, prejudiced for obvious reasons about what they think healthcare is. How do you
Sure.
give them the data they need? How do you show them over time results? Not just, oh, my neck pain has gone away or my headache is better, but aggregate results that translate into dollars. And for that, what you're doing is priceless, both in terms of a business opportunity, but also really for the profession as a whole. And that's why I'm just proud to sort of help create awareness about what it is that you guys are doing. It's outstanding.
Thank you. The sort of transition that we have seen is, we built this model for the corporations, and for those of us who've had some experience inside of a corporation, they kind of say, show me the data, then tell me the story,
right.
Not the other way around.
Yep.
They don't want to hear a story. They want to be convinced that you've got the right answer. Now give it to me, right? And so we've taken some of these fantastic doctors who we already knew were great and plugging them into this process that says, what would you do, or what would you have to do if you had to demonstrate how good you were after every single visit?
Wow.
And so we start at that space, we look at these tools, and pretty soon, even some of these fantastic doctors are being surprised because they didn't know that they were that good.
Right.
We talk about all the things naturally with chiropractic of maybe short-term disability or aches and pains. But when I talk about the ability to impact a health risk analysis, diabetes, cholesterol, into that nutrition, into the BMI space, here's what I found, is that some of these doctors who understand that if you lay it out and you can measure what you do along the way, they've transitioned that back into their practice. And so I didn't necessarily change a practice. But what I did do is I refine, and we help refine these skill sets where you have to be accountable for every action. Now, in private practice, maybe that's not required every single day of the week, but imagine if you had that as your foundation and that is your sort of MBA, and then take that knowledge back into practice. You can easily pick 2 or 3 things that'll impact your business overnight.
And I love that. We talked a little bit earlier, and I think most chiropractors are familiar with the concept of certainty in the way you speak. And some people naturally just are certain about whatever it is, right? In some cases, you've heard the saying, often wrong, never in doubt, right? So some people, some people just naturally are certain. Other people need, some evidence of some sort, some measurement, some data to be able to go, oh, I measured, and that's how I know what's what. And again, you really are taking that on in a big way. So those who are certain can become even more certain, and those who may not be so certain can actually have some data, whether it's yours or theirs that they accumulate by going through your process to develop that certainty, to be able to really, attract more people, because that certainty is one of those invisible, invaluable qualities that really grows practices, that grows businesses, that attract people to you. When you know that you know that you know, and you can go, oh, well, here's the data.
Yes. I mean, when you can say, are you a good doctor? And you can say, yes, I'm fantastic. Read the paper.
Right. And here's how I know.
Tell the story.
Right.
I think, you're right. I think people will see that as a real eye-opening, kind of experience. And who knows where that leads to, right? I'm a fan of just good old-fashioned natural competition. But we've worked with doctors for a while now in this kind of a paradigm where outside of their Cultivate world, we're just talking about them being a chiropractor in town now.
Yep.
They are saying, well, I now have more certainty in my practice. I'm meeting with people and I'm saying different things now. I'm not talking about the 12-visit protocol. I'm talking about when I see you at Christmas time, bring the kids in. And that certainty translates into dollars. And I'll tell you how it does, because a couple of these doctors that are really taking this to heart have revamped their own marketing plan, their own PR campaign in the local community, and have said, well, do you want to get the best care in town? Well, here's my data. If you're going to a chiropractor, ask your doctor these questions. And again, I don't want to be so overly focused on results. We all appreciate that they matter. And I think we would be remiss to say that the softer skills is really a lot of times where the magic happens.
Absolutely.
But when you can say, like you just said, Jason, with certainty, when you can turn around to your community and you can communicate certainty based on your population of patients, not just on the certainty of one patient,
that's right,
you will turn a lot of heads, right?
Yeah, and you add that to the soft skills, and you've got what it takes.
Home run.
Yeah. No, I love having these conversations with you. There's some that may be new to what Cultivate is. So maybe sort of in closing, for anybody who's sort of new to what Cultivate's all about, maybe kind of give us a summary of what it is and how people can get involved.
Sure. I mean, I think, in our second video here, we're peeling back a few layers. I love this, by the way. It's very exciting for me. We are an on-site wellness program that is corporate-led with a chiropractor. It is a tag team approach of a chiropractor and a wellness coach where we offer 4 simple foundational wellness elements: chiropractic care, nutrition, fitness, and education. Our chiropractors in our model share half of that responsibility, and the wellness coach does the other half. Doctors that are out there interested, if they think that this might be something to check out deeper, or maybe this on-site thing could be something of interest, we just encourage people to just hop on the website, www.cultivateonsite.com. You go down to the bottom of the page. There's a section there for chiropractors. It's a very quick, easy fill out, and then we'll get back and contact you. For those that are interested and they think that they really want to take this seriously, Jason, we offer a 3-day intensive course. Okay. It's an MBA level course where we do talk a little bit about chiropractic as it leans into safety and ergonomics. And then we go into these other pillars where we go much deeper on our systems and our tools. Off the top of my head, I know our next class is April 22nd. But if anybody's out there checking out the video here in the short run, cultivateonsite.com, bottom of the page, you can find out all about our certification, all about the program. And there's a few white papers out there as well that kind of speak to the results, Jason, that you and I were talking about today.
And for those listening, watching, and so on, who would be the right type of person to want to do this, and who would be perhaps the wrong type or not necessarily the right fit for something like this?
That's a great question. I think the people who are right for this are probably those that are running a fairly successful practice right now and don't feel they need to do anything different. Those are the folks that are saying, right? Yeah, I've built it, I'm good.
Yeah.
Doctors who are sort of out there grasping for the next thing and maybe, struggling a little bit in managing their environment. Again, you have to run a great private practice to do this. So if you're struggling in private practice, it's a very long putt, to go on site. But I would say those that have, been in practice for a while, they feel like they have great community presence. Maybe they have an associate or two. Inside of their chiropractic practice, you're going to find more than just traditional chiropractic. You might find massage or acupuncture, life coaching, fitness,
lifestyle.
Anything around. Yeah, I mean, it's just a more, comprehensive sort of view of the world. And then they're looking to say, I don't know if I want to do this way for the next 15 to 20 years.
Right.
So we say, look, if you are out there running a very successful practice, maybe on-site is right for your practice, but maybe not particularly for you. If you have an associate or 2 associates, why not deploy them for 10, 15, 20 hours a week? And then what you do is you hope that all of that traffic from the company is coming back to practice. So there have been a few chiropractors out there that are a little bit later in their career looking at this as maybe a nice retirement package. They can hold on to the practice, they can deploy people out into the community, and yet they get to remain and hold the name there at the practice in the community. So,
I love it.
If anybody's interested, I would just say, look, it's usually about a 30-minute, 40-minute chat where we want to know about you, why you're in practice, how are you doing in the community, what do you love, and, how do you know you're a great doctor, right? Usually it just starts out like that, and we just get to know each other. And if it makes sense, we like to keep the conversation rolling.
Outstanding. Jerry, another phenomenal conversation. Thanks for keeping us up. We'll do this again soon. And you keep us and all of our viewers kind of up to date with, really what's going on, how this profession is expanding into the employer world. We know with all the changes in healthcare that things are changing, and that means nothing but great opportunity. Your experience from the executive side and your passion as a company to make this happen, I'll say on behalf of our profession, I know in my heart this is more than just good business for you guys. This is a passion for really helping our profession elevate and grow to tremendous ways, to cultivate our profession, obviously, to higher and higher levels. And so for that, I and the profession say thank you. I'll leave you with some closing words.
Hey, thank you. It's always a pleasure, Jason. I would just like to say to the chiropractic community, people are watching. People are paying attention, and they're the people that you're not typically accustomed to paying attention to you. You know, the C-suite is seeing that you can deliver results, that you are the perfectly positioned wellness coach that sits ahead of primary care. So if we want to take this seriously as a profession, the world is out there watching and they're ready for us. We just need to take advantage of the opportunity.
Beautiful.
So have a great day. Thanks again, as always, Jason. We'll catch you next time, okay?
I'll see you soon. Thanks, and hey, thanks everyone for joining us for another Cultivate Corner. We'll see you again real soon.